Hi guys, welcome to Office Blokes React. I'm Office Bloke Dave.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
Office Bloke Daz.
Together with the Office Blokes.
Yes.
It is true. Now, just as we were about to do this video, I think you mentioned you may have done this.
I've done a few of them.
Right.
Things that happened in the 70s and Generation X kids and things we did in the 80s and what some of the stuff that triggers is you'll get it a lot, Mike. I mean, you're a little bit younger, Dave. When were you born? What year?
86.
86.
Yeah.
So what were you? You were a 60s kid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was a 70s kid, and it's when we talk about certain stuff, there's always one thing I always phrase and sort of like a story I tell is when my parents used to go out when we were kids. I was probably about 8 or 9 at the time, and they used to go out on a Sunday and leave my older brother babysitting, who was about 14.
Yeah.
But as soon as my parents used to go to the pub, we all used to pile back out. Right, I even had a younger sister. And I remember my dad came back one day. He must have forgot something. He came back to the house. Well, we lived in a flat, and I was on the roof.
Why not?
But we lived in a flat. So I was like 3 stories up on the roof.
Oh, wow.
But that's what we did.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That was to us. That was who could climb the highest on the drain pipe to get on the roof.
Yeah.
And it was things like that. So I was quite a good climber.
Yeah.
So I climbed on the roof, you know.
Things you do when you're kids' age.
I know.
I was still of that generation where it was normal to just be out. You know, like even before you're old enough to have a house key, you're just out on the streets all the time. And it's like, I can't imagine it now with my kids.
No, it's the biggest danger we ever had was like the local park and the toilets.
Yeah.
And what was inside them.
That's what it is. Yeah,
That was the biggest danger.
Yeah.
No, you go in. No, I need a piss, but I'm not going in there.
There's literally, I grew up next to Stanford Park in Alty, and that's why they shut those toilets for a long time.
Mate, that was the posh park. I was next to Painswick Park.
Yeah, can you imagine? Can you imagine?
Yeah, I can't imagine like letting, because Oscar's 8 now, and I think I was probably 10, 11 when I'm roaming the streets on my own. I was a bit younger when I was with my bro because he's 2.5 years older, but I can't imagine letting him just out on even just on the street because of dickhead drivers and stuff like that.
When we were like 6, 7, 8, we were all on the streets playing with our mates and stuff like that.
At the age of 6, I used to pick my sister up from school. Who was in the nursery school. I was in the infant school, and we used to walk home to get the bus from the Civic, and then get on a bus to outside.
It's mind blowing, isn't it?
I know.
It's absolutely.
you do think
6 and 4.
You do think back, don't you? You think, Jesus, what were we doing?
I know.
Wow.
And you only get touched a couple of times by the local
Toilet dweller.
What was your dad doing?
Jeez.
Not cold for a while, is it? Right then, 13 things from the 70s kids today will never understand. Let's check it out.
There are some things that are unique to the decade that we grew up in. The 1970s was no different, having a distinct style that is easily recognizable, even to newer generations. But aside from the obvious disco and bell-bottom trends, there were more minute details that people living during that time will easily recognize. So here are 13 things from the 1970s that kids today would never understand. Options for watching TV were very different during the 1970s. For one, there were really only 3 TV channels plus public broadcasting. That's right, just 3. No streaming services, no endless options. You'd also have to get up and manually turn the dial to change channels. It was a time in which we waited for our favorite shows, which included nightly shows that were popular and Saturday morning cartoons. It was a big deal when you could pour a big bowl of cereal and binge hours of your favorite animated shows. But with the limited options on the television, it's no wonder kids spent so much time outside. Well, that and the fact that some parents made their kids go outside and play.
I think that's one of the things leading to so much division in the world nowadays.
What's that?
It's like when there used to be limited channels and no streaming services, everyone had watched The Thing on the Saturday night or the Sunday night or
Same
whatever.
thing, yeah.
And you'd all have something to bond over the next day. You like go into school and everyone watched the same episode of
It's
something.
still popular. There's still popular shows on TV now that people still do that, especially around sport and these
Sports,
certain, and there's certain TV shows like especially over here, like what's that jungle show called?
I'm a Celebrity.
I'm a Celebrity.
Yeah,
like that.
but
Yeah.
it's not as much as it used to be where most people would watch the same thing.
Yeah.
And you'd also sit around with your family on a Saturday night and everyone watch whatever shit was on, but you're all together doing it.
When he says about letting kids out and kids playing out and they went out of the house and stuff, my dad used to get us up on a Saturday morning, pushes out, like, have our breakfast sort of thing, and a lot of the time we didn't have anything. whatever was there, stale bread or whatever, and then fucking shoved out the door. And he used to put the catch on so you couldn't get back in. and he'd only let us back in when he was going out. He'd put the catch on, and then we'd be waiting outside that. Sometimes waiting on the doorstep, pissing rain, and he still wouldn't let us in. We still weren't allowed in.
What was he doing?
He just would watching the horse racing and stuff, whatever's on the TV.
Just didn't want you in the house.
Just didn't want us in the house, because I had 2 brothers and a sister. We were always fighting.
Yeah.
So it was a zoo in our house.
During the 70s, making a mixtape was an art form. It took patience and dedication to sit by the radio for hours, waiting for the right song to be played. It didn't matter how good your timing was either, because pushing down the play and record buttons at precisely the right time still sometimes had the DJ talking over the intro. And that was just part of the charm. Cassettes had their quirks too, like when they got tangled, and you would have to use a pencil to wind them back in. Cassettes made it pretty easy to create what we know today as a playlist, and this was the first time we could listen anywhere we wanted. Did you ever run around the house and pretend you were Superman or Batman? Well, if you did during the 1970s, then you most likely had on a pair of superhero underoos. For many kids, they served a dual purpose. They were underwear and part of a costume when you were strutting around the house, feeling invincible. Superhero underoos were more than just clothing. They were your identity, especially the ones that matched the actual superhero outfits. Nowadays, kids can never appreciate their underwear in the same way.
It's a bit odd making a segment about kids' underwear.
I know, yeah.
No, that's what you used to do, didn't you? The underwear was like, you become the superhero, didn't you?
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
I think it was only a 70s
Recollection
thing.
Road
Yeah,
is proud to
I didn't
partner
do that.
with Life Story Pro. Watch until the end of this video to learn more about preserving your loved one's stories in a beautifully printed book, which makes the perfect gift. Visit lifestorypro.com/recollection to get started. During the 1970s, record stores were not just places to buy music. They were social gathering spots. Just like the mall of the 1980s, young people would hang out with friends, browse through vinyl records, and even listen to albums before they purchased them. Store employees at this time were also music enthusiasts, and they would recommend hidden gems. It also wasn't uncommon for you to strike up a conversation with a stranger who was into the same music as you. So the local record store was a special place, and yet another experience that is hard to replicate today. Hitchhiking during the 1970s was surprisingly easy and acceptable. It was very common to see people thumbing a ride on the side of the road. Drivers would often not hesitate to pick up hitchhikers, and it was seen as a way to help out a fellow traveler. There was more of a sense of camaraderie on the open road back then, and that's hard to understand in today's world. But it wasn't without risk, and there was still a chance you might encounter a few weirdos, and that was just part of the fun. Nowadays, it's illegal to hitch free rides in many places, but back then, it wasn't unusual to find a service member, a student, or even a hippie thumbing for a ride. When you think back to the 1970s, men had some serious style. They had manly mustaches, sideburns, big hair, and that distinct aroma of aftershave wafting around them. It was all about the macho look, and men took their grooming pretty seriously. This was also coupled with some pretty bold choices in clothing too, and as long as you could leave a couple of buttons undone so you could show off your hairy chest, you were good to go. Nothing quite matches the swagger men had in the 1970s.
Moustaches are coming back though at the moment, aren't they? See quite a lot of young lads with moustaches.
It's big, like fashion's always like a massive circle, isn't it? It's like coming and going.
Yeah.
That's 70s, but my dad was a proper like big mustache, Ron Jeremy type.
Was he?
Big
Really?
Yeah.
Now JV's getting like a mullet now as well.
Yeah.
They seem to be coming back quite a bit as well.
They're kind of on the way out a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think, because I see the hair trends with what Declan does in his barber shop.
Yeah.
So I think the mullets have kind of they're not gone yet.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are having them cut out at the moment.
Yeah.
But it's still a popular.
It's funny how they come and go, isn't it? Haircuts and things out for different fashions. But yeah.
And speaking of grooming, ladies too had their own unique products to give them that 1970s look. Sun-In was all the rage, promising sun-kissed highlights. Women would spray it into their hair and head outside hoping for those perfect golden locks. And who doesn't remember the smell of Love's Baby Soft, a signature scent from the 1970s? The sweet, youthful fragrance was a defining smell that had all the girls wearing.
Doubled up. Right?
Everyone looks so young in, like, I guess it's like print media and adverts and things like that. People seem younger then that are advertising stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She looks really young.
Yeah.
Compared to who you'd see advertising, is that a perfume or something?
I don't know what it
Nowadays.
is. The shape of it, I'm not sure what it is.
Looks a bit sketchy, doesn't it?
2 AA batteries, right, mate? You had it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Baby Soft, but I'm not sure the ad campaign would fly today.
Innocence is sexy.
When the telephone that hung in the kitchen rang, it was always answered. This was before caller ID, so people had no idea who was calling. Can you imagine? You didn't know if it was your best friend or a sales call, which meant there was a chance that you might recognize the voice on the other end and spend some time getting twisted up in the phone cord while you talked. Or you might be yelling across the house to let someone else know the call was for them. Today's kids might find it unbelievable that we willingly picked up the phone without the slightest clue as to who was on the other end. To best capture the moments in the 1970s, you absolutely needed a Polaroid camera. The idea of hitting the button and instantly getting a picture developed was gratifying, but you had to be selective because each roll of film only had a certain number of pictures. And then there was the practice of shaking the picture to help it develop faster, which was just a myth. But you couldn't take the bulky Polaroid camera with you everywhere, so there were also photo booths that were strategically placed where teenagers congregated. Places like arcades, malls, and roller rinks were ideal, so best friends and couples could capture the day with a series of goofy and fun pictures.
Another thing that's coming back.
Yeah.
Another one of them.
Photo parties.
Again, one of my boys has got one of these. There's always, doing off pictures and stuff like
What,
that.
Polaroid?
Polaroid. Yeah.
I mean, nowadays you can buy them little printers that go to your phone as well, can't they?
Yeah.
So you take it with your phone, and you print it and plug it in, and it prints out straight away.
Right. Yeah. No, it's got like a proper one with the proper thingy.
But if you go to a lot of parties you go to now, like especially like 21st, 50th, things like that, big photo booths.
Yeah.
I've got a mate who's into photography quite heavily, and he's recently moved over back to a film camera. And he puts it all on Instagram, but obviously has to get it developed first and then puts it on. Yeah. So there's something quite like charming, about the pictures and where the colours work.
It's just incredible how things like that come back, and vinyl's coming back as well, isn't it?
You were the king of the dark room, weren't you?
Oh, yeah.
I think
about that. Yeah, we used to do microfilm, didn't we?
Yeah.
When you say vinyl's coming back, though, I think the stat is something like only 20-30% of it ever gets listened to.
Yeah.
So people still, a lot of vinyl gets sold, but people are buying it as a collector's item.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
And then only a small minority of people are actually putting it on a record player and listening to it.
Some DJs now in nightclubs are doing just vinyl, aren't they?
Oh, really?
Yeah, reverting back to just vinyl.
Back to
like old school, It's attracting more people.
Yeah, I bet it was like I say, it's old school, isn't it? People love retro stuff, don't they?
If you were to step back in time and visit a 1970s kitchen, you'd probably find a fair share of mushroom-themed decor. Mushroom plates, mushroom curtains, mushroom wallpaper. They were everywhere. Everything back then seemed to have an earthy aesthetic, and mushrooms must have been the perfect fungus to represent that style. I guess you'd call it charm, and every corner of the room seemed to be inspired by it. As you waited for the weekend and that special morning of cartoons, you also needed a sugary cereal to help you enjoy it. The 1970s was all about finding the best surprise toy inside the cereal box. Kids would beg their parents for a certain brand of cereal, not because of the taste, but because of the toy. It may have been a silly game or a small figurine, but it was like finding a treasure when you dug down to the bottom of the box and pulled out the prize.
That Frosty's reflector, I had that on one of my bikes when I was young, I've not thought about that for maybe 30 years.
It's right what they say, though, isn't it? It's like you're trying to get, you buy some shit cereal just to get the little shitty gift.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
It's mad, because it's sometimes the kids there'll be something that's an equivalent, like we went for a McDonald's a couple of months ago and you scan the app on the Happy Meal and it takes you to a Sonic the Hedgehog game on the phone, and they're like, can we play that Sonic game again? And that's kind of their modern equivalent to
it is,
these sort of things, isn't it?
Yeah.
1970s. This excitement made morning cereal more than just breakfast, which is much different than today.
No kids buying Special K.
No.
Opening a
Phoebe loves Weetabix. She used to eat Weetabix.
Yeah,
all
Weetabix.
the time.
Weetabix are popular amongst kids.
I
Both
think-
my grandkids eat Weetabix.
All the honey that's all over it, though. I think that's why she
You've got
likes
plenty
it.
of sugar on it and stuff, haven't you?
Yeah.
No, our kids have them like. But even when Aiden was a kid, he went to stay at his friends, and they asked him, him and Declan were there, and they asked, "What's all that white stuff on your cereal?" It was sugar, and they didn't have any sugar on there. Again,
did
you know,
not?
again, it's like that bloody
Yeah,
what's it,
yeah.
police, sugar police, not having anything with sugar in it.
I always had that. If it was ever Special K or something, it's literally a whole tablespoon of
Yeah.
sugar and just like that.
That's how
over
we
the
grew up.
top
Yeah,
of it.
that's what it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
plenty of sugar in it, you got, haven't you?
That's why I've had the debate about sugar, like kids drinking cups of tea, because Oscar and Phoebe love a cup of tea, and I put like half a sugar in each one. And I've had a few people say, you can't be giving kids sugar. And I'm like, do you know what we grew up on?
Yeah.
Exactly that. You've had, what is it, on one bowl of cereal, it's probably equivalent to about 4 sugars that you've put in it.
Yeah.
And then you've had your cup of tea with 2 sugars in it as well.
Yeah.
Madness.
beer or soda can in the 1970s was a bit different than what we are used to today. You'd pull the ring back and peel back the aluminum tab. And back then, most of the tabs were just tossed on the ground. These sharp pieces of discarded metal were a nuisance, especially on beaches or places where you might walk barefoot. These pull tabs were just another hazard that we faced, and the tops would change shortly after to the more familiar stay tab that we recognize today. But it was still all part of the fun of living in the 1970s. Last but not least, school lunch in the 1970s wasn't complete without a trusty metal lunchbox and the matching thermos. These lunchboxes not only showed off our favorite characters from pop culture, but they often also had their fair share of rust
no
on
one,
them
no one
too.
had that one, did they, Mike?
Ding or scratch would quickly rust over, and our parents didn't seem to mind either. Remember the smell of opening a metal lunchbox after a long, hot day? Kids today, with their ice packs and insulated lunch bags, will never
We
fully
pals
understand
keep
what it was
power.
like to grow up in the 1970s. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything, and make sure to sign up for the Recollection Road newsletter using the link in the description.
That
Yeah, I was
good.
talking about the ring pulls yesterday.
Is there something?
It's probably advert. It's that advert. He was talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
The ring. We were talking about the ring pulls. Used to be there was one shown on there it was on the far left of it, and it had like 2 little indents in it.
I know what you're going to say.
And we used to fire them.
Ping it like
Yeah,
that,
we used to
didn't
ping
you?
it. We used to get the
that's
fire.
right.
We made a game out of it,
Yeah.
didn't we? Yeah, who could get it the furthest?
Yeah, that's right.
And
I
you'd both
remember
wager your money, or more ring tops.
Yeah.
You'd wager, I bet 10 ring tops I can get this one further. And you always
Yeah.
had the one that floated further than anything.
Yeah, bit of a frisbee style.
Yeah, that's what it was. And you get them so we made a game out of it.
Yeah.
Do you think it was a better time to grow up than it is nowadays, or do you think?
I don't know, really. There's more opportunities now.
Yeah, there's more to do now, isn't there?
You're sort of freer then because you did get out and about more, I think. People were always out, especially on our estate. There's always people knocking about and going playing football and stuff like that.
It's a very safe world now when you look at like the health and safety side of aspects of it. I mean, I was saying this to Aiden yesterday. You don't really see many kids with broken arms, whereas when we were at school, pretty much everyone had a cast on their arm.
Yeah.
You know, it was,
That's true, that actually, yeah.
You don't see any, when you go to the park now. It's very safe.
Yeah.
There's not. You don't see kids jumping over other kids on a bike in the street.
Yeah, or on the swings nearly going right round
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
Jumping off
Or a
them,
massive
like,
steel.
20 foot in the air.
Slide that was 25 foot in the air with no rails on it.
Yeah.
You know, you don't
true,
get
yeah,
you don't
yeah.
get that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
You have to wear a seatbelt wherever you go, and kids have to be strapped into cars. I used to sleep on the back parcel shelf, on the back of my dad's car, sort of thing. And then we got an estate, and that was proper. That was luxury then.
Yeah.
Once we had the estate, that was a proper like kitted out in the back. It was a limo.
Yeah.
You could proper lie down.
Yeah.
You know.
Obviously, like it's all done with the best of intentions to make kids safer, isn't it? But then, like physical safety's gone up, but then mental health has probably dropped a little bit because kids are not experiencing the world in that same sort of way.
Don't forget in the 70s as well, I mean, when kids went out or when we went out playing, there's no contact.
Yeah,
you
no
don't have any
mobile-
mobile phones
yeah.
or anything like that.
No.
So whereas these days, they've all got a phone, haven't they? So
It was just another
probably a
kid
lot
running
safer.
back to the parents to say something's happened, wasn't it?
was.
Yeah, that's it. You have to come quick.
Yeah. Did do one of my mates.
He went for a piss and he's not out yet.
Well, like, we were down Park Road with one of my mates who climbed up this tree and fell out of it basically, landed on the floor. He was sprawled on the floor. Went right back down to on the lane to get his mum to come back up for him. But
Still
anyway,
lay
this
there
neighbour-
half an hour later.
Well, this neighbour had come out in the end, but he got carted off to hospital. I think he might have broken his arm then.
But that's what happens. People used to come out and help you. Nowadays,
True,
everyone just
yeah,
turns
yeah.
a blind eye, don't they?
Yeah.
No, it's,
It's, different world, isn't it, really? But
Yeah, it's very different.
whether it's better growing up, I don't know.
That's why I wonder
Sure.
if it's got better or worse. I don't know.
It's hard to say.
What's better for kids? Because you want them to be safe,
Yeah.
but you also want them to experience the world and to
Yeah.
learn and develop.
There's different things going on these days as well, isn't there? You know, we've got different things to occupy the minds and different games. And
Well, we lived in a lot of danger with no money, sort of
Yeah.
thing, you know. So we had to make our own. You had to make your own entertainment.
Yeah, you didn't have PlayStations and stuff like that. You had absolutely nothing like that whatsoever. So you had a bit of telly, but that's pretty much it. So we just went out, just messing about, didn't you? You know,
Exactly.
playing football,
Yeah,
and,
with your
you know,
mates,
stuff
you
like
know,
that.
getting into fights, riding bikes,
Yeah,
chasing each other when it was dark, hiding in places.
yeah.
You know, that was it. That was just make your own games, didn't you?
Bit of knock and run and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
wind up. You know,
Trying
the
to say
local
it's at
psycho.
the neighbours' windows.
Yeah.
Some people used to, anyway.
Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.